Once upon a time, a student named Jehron saw firsthand how isolating the journey in computer science could be. Every day, he noticed talented peers struggling without a support system, including his best friend Rami. One day, Jehron and Rami decided to scale the underrepresented minority in computing club on campus. Because of that, Black and Latino computer science students found mentorship, friendship, and the confidence to persist. Because of that, Jehron turned down his full-time job offer at Google to start ColorStack to support students nationally. Until finally, ColorStack became a movement, helping thousands of students just like Rami stay in computer science and launch successful careers. And ever since that day, ColorStack has continued to grow, ensuring that no Black or Latino computer science student has to navigate the journey alone.
Welcome to A Life Worth Working, a podcast about how we get to the soul of work. We're your hosts, Dana Allen Walsh and Michelle Weiss. I'm a senior pastor of a progressive church, and Michelle is an education and workforce strategist.
And as always, we love hearing your comments, questions, and thoughts. So please know you can email us anytime at hello@alifeworthworking.com. And please don't forget to subscribe to A Life Worth Working and share it with your friends and loved ones.
In this episode, we chat with Jehron Petty, the CEO of ColorStack, a nonprofit cultivating cross-campus communities to increase the number of minority computer science students going into rewarding technical careers.
When Jehron was in high school, which was also the #1 school in New York for basketball, he was completely immersed in the energy of his circle. Friends headed to Division I schools, some even chasing dreams of the NBA. Driven by that momentum, he poured everything into refining his basketball game. But then, as he tells it, something shifted. Almost overnight, he became a nerd.
I was in community with people that were like going to Division I colleges and if not the NBA one day. And so I was on that track. Like I was trying to pursue that and putting all my eggs into that basket, not caring as much about school or my career. But junior year of college was when I kind of heard that voice.
High school?
High school, yes. Where I was reflecting on that, praying about that, and realized that like, no, there might be something else that's a better application of this work ethic that I have and the skills that I have. And so that's when I did a 180. I literally became a nerd overnight. You know, I was always good at math and science, and I would just do whatever the bare minimum is. And then that year was the first year I had like straight A, like literally 99, 99, 100, 100,
Wow.
like in all these classes. I joined Mathletes, Science Olympiad. I became a nerd, like a full-on nerd.
You really embraced it. Yeah.
I did.
So you took all of these basketball skills, that work ethic, and you transferred it to the nerd realm of like,
Yep.
I'm going to go in. Wow.
Yeah. No, seriously. And I love that you brought up the work ethic part again, too, because what that looked like was if you either have been in competitive sports or you know people in competitive sports, like when you're really trying to like make it, it's like 2-a-day workouts, morning, afternoon, evening, gym, tournaments. Like I was going all in. And what clicked for me was like, okay, if there's something that I have a more natural predisposition towards, right? Because I'm 5'10", I'm not that athletic. I have to work a lot harder to be competitive there. But if there was something in my life where I'm more naturally good at, like math and science, which I've always known I've been naturally good, I just didn't think there was any ROI in like putting effort into it. What could happen, right? What could happen if I did the extracurriculars? What could happen if I tried to like take the advanced courses? What could happen? So that was my thought process. I didn't know what was going to happen as a result, but that was my thought process in that moment was what could happen if I take this same work ethic and applied something that I'm already naturally good at.
Even as a high schooler, Jehron had an entrepreneurial mindset and started a company called Fixed by JL. After fixing his own computer out of desperation, he realized he could easily fix iPhones and laptops.
There was a market opportunity, and so I seized it.
I love it.
That same fix-it mentality was unleashed when Jehron was a freshman in college at Cornell University. He was majoring in engineering. Things looked golden for him. He was doing everything right, moving faster than most, checking every box. His classmates even started calling him the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
I had built this kind of brand within the community of, they would call me the GOAT. I would never like actually live into that and feed into it, but they were calling me at the time the GOAT because I had secured an internship in my freshman year and I became a TA for like this one of the weed out courses. So, as young people do, they have these exaggerated labels. And so
Love it.
what it actually ended up doing for me though was because they were calling me things like that, I actually further thought about what was going on and like kind of started to disagree with what was happening in the community at the time where like I didn't believe that I should be called things like that just because I got an internship. I believe that a lot of them were capable of getting an internship. I believe that a lot of them were capable of acing that weed out class. I believe a lot of them were capable of just succeeding in computer science. And so it's actually because of that I start to even think further like, wait. This is not how
Mhm.
things should be going. And I dug into like why, right? So Rami was just one of the many students that were in my network, in my friend group at the time, where they were starting out in computer science. They took the first or second course, found a little bit of struggle, a little bit of isolation, lost a little bit of confidence, and were starting to consider other majors. And so that was the moment for me where I said, I want to do something myself, and I started to actually mentor students one on one. So if you need help on the homework, if you needed a mock interview, if you needed your resume reviewed, if you needed just a pep talk to keep going, I did any and all of that for my friend group and kind of the adjacent folks on campus for the first 2 years of college. And so from there, that's when things start to formalize a bit more. Because at a certain point, I only had so much time in the day to help people one on one. So I had to try and think about like, okay, how do we scale that
Mhm.
beyond Jehron just helping one person?
Wow, that is so powerful. I love, Jehron, how you took that kind of power of being the GOAT and didn't just let it feed your ego, especially as a freshman in college, but instead you said, how can I use this to serve others? How can I address some kind of systemic issue that is beyond just me here? And what obstacles did you see other students facing that you wanted to help address?
Great question. The core thing was lack of sense of belonging and isolation. I think what I read or what I heard from students as they came to me for help, it wasn't like, oh, I need my resume reviewed. What I heard in the interaction was, I just don't think I can do it, or I just don't think this is right, or I just don't think this is for me. Like they weren't saying that, but the nature of those conversations, I always felt it. I always felt that that was the core thing. And so what I tried to drive home is this sense of community. You have people here to help you. You do belong here. I think at one level it was me being a role model, but then very quickly I was able to point them to other people that I've helped. Like, oh no,
Mhm.
this student he actually just did that interview the other day and he aced it, or this other person just got a 90 on that problem set last week. Like you could probably ask them. Like then you start to build this like flywheel effect of community where it's not like there's this one person that we all have to look up to because in that case it actually doesn't really help because then it's like maybe they're just special. Like once you
Mhm.
start building this community of like, no, we are all capable and there for each other, you then start to break down the barriers, the mental barriers that were stopping students from feeling that they could persist.
I also really like how you had the ability to see beyond the presenting, like what to help
Hmm.
the who, that
Hmm.
people came to you with the what of this class is really causing me issues, or I'm stuck
Yeah.
on my resume, or I don't know how to do an interview. And you saw beyond the what to the who of
Hmm.
really supporting the who and then connecting people to each other. It's really
Totally.
powerful.
One of the most distinct conversations or distinct memories I had when helping Rami specifically was we had lunch and he was considering dropping computer science. And I remember vividly telling him the other day, you told me that you love writing code. Like he was doing this like
Mm.
problem set or assignment and he was struggling with it.
Mhm.
But but I just remember like he looked up at me and he was like, bro, I just love writing code. As he's like struggling to figure out this
Right.
problem assignment. And I reminded him in that conversation, I was like, that is the only thing that matters. Everything else that you just told me is the means to some end. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to get your resume right, or you got to like do this problem set, or you got to get a good grade to like pass the class. Yeah, but like none of that is going to change that you love writing code.
Mm.
Mm.
And so that is the only thing that you should think about as you make any decision, if you want to stay in computer science or whatever.
I love that you just reflected that back
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
Something like we've talked about in terms of the way that people find some meaning and fulfillment. It sometimes needs to be something that's reflected to you from others that
Mhm.
know you, right? That
Mhm.
see you. I'm curious, as you think back on your work in college, you're helping your friends, you're helping more friends do this work. What gives you the confidence and the ability to say, I think there's a business model here?
So the biggest piece of advice I give to people who are budding entrepreneurs is that is reflective of my journey where I didn't plan on starting College Stack. Like that was never in the cards for me. Even if you think about the club that I built while I was at Cornell, I stepped down from that after my term and I was like, okay, great. It's going, it's moving, I passed it off. Now on to my regular career, right? Like I was, even when I stepped down, I wasn't even thinking about the concept of doing this formally or as a nonprofit or full time. Definitely not full time. What happened was throughout the journey of building the organization or just like my journey solving this problem over time is that at any given moment, if I told you what I was doing, it was just the solving the bigger version of the previous problem that I solved. So if the first problem was I have these two friends that are low in confidence and I think they're destined for better, I need to help them. That's what I've told you I was doing at that time, freshman year. Sophomore year, it's like, oh no, word got out. I have some more friends. I'm telling them to come to my dorm room. And now it's like 10 people. I'm just like doing this little study group thing. Junior year of college, I would have told you, oh, I'm actually running this club now that's like scaling that thing that I had no more time to do one-on-one in my dorm. And so at any given point, I was just solving the bigger version of the previous problem. And so the conversion or the kind of path to starting ColoStack full time, it's like that phrase gradually then suddenly. It's like gradually I'm just like solving the bigger version of a problem, then suddenly I'm running an organization with full-time employees, right? So that was my experience, but that's also my advice. Like, that's how it should be. Like, don't force yourself into a business. Don't force yourself into trying to be the next big thing. Just like solve a bunch of problems, and as they grow in scope, reflect that in your solution. And maybe one day it'll be something meaningful. Maybe it'll stay at that size. But I think the natural kind of just let the market tell me what to do led to something like this being successful. So long story short, I mean, I didn't really, that wasn't in the plan. But over time, the people, right? The people who could benefit from CloudStack existing made that clear to me. And so I just responded to that.
I love Jehron's description of his journey. At any given moment, I was just solving the bigger version of the previous problem. There's so much wisdom in that approach to life and to work.
That phrase he used, gradually, then suddenly, actually comes from Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, where a character explains how bankruptcy happens. Two ways, gradually, then suddenly. Classic Hemingway, poetic, punchy, and slightly depressing. One minute you're tightening your budget, and the next you're Googling how to sell a kidney on Craigslist.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is that this concept has been embraced beyond literature. Economists have even adopted what they call the Hemingway law of motion to explain various phenomena in society. It applies to everything from economic trends to organizational development, changes that seem imperceptible until they reach a critical mass. But in Jehron's case, it's a positive transformation. Before he knew it, he was running an organization with full-time employees.
That's what I find so liberating about his approach. There's freedom in releasing the pressure to have it all figured out, and instead just taking the next right step. Each next step is an opportunity for learning and growth, and then we're forced to pay attention.
Because your nonprofit is so obsessed with social capital and developing people's social capital, can you first explain to listeners what social capital is and how you enable more learners to actually build and strengthen their social capital?
I actually like this question because I don't think I've ever tried to come up with my own definition. But so social capital, to me, it's just the idea that it's not about what you know, many times about who you know, and who you know can be the unlock to opportunity in your career, right? So what I try to drive home to our students and any learner or professional out there is that you are likely right now underestimating the power of your network today, of like who you know, which is all that's all your social capital is, like who you know. I think what I did early on, and I try to coach students on this too, because I made the same mistake, was I was always trying to talk to like some VP or CTO or CEO. Like that was like the thing. And I get in these calls, I'm like, wow, like you are not going to be helpful to me. Unless like there's probably some criteria where you can be helpful to me, but for the most part, you're so removed from what I'm trying to do. You're so busy. You're so, all these reasons why you will actually not be helpful. And there was this moment in like middle of college where I was like, no, 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 no. What I should be focused on is the people that are kind of horizontally around me, and then people that are just the next step ahead of me. And when I had that mindset shift, I think that's when I really started to grow a meaningful network and a meaning and actually strong social capital, because those VPs and those CTOs or whoever, that's not strong social capital. They don't have the time to really build a meaningful relationship with you because they're so far removed from where you are and they're so busy. So you're just trying to like farm LinkedIn connections just to say you have LinkedIn connections. Whereas if you focus on people who are around you, you can build strong relationships that may yield something in the future. It may not, but who cares? Like the whole idea is just focus on the people around you, continue to pour in, and a side kind of factor that plays into building social capital is to really be intentional about your personal brand, which I talk about a lot. Your personal brand is what people are saying, or your reputation is what people say when they're not in the room with you. What do they say about you when they're not in the room with you? And so you have to be very intentional about that, because that's how you can activate your social capital. If nobody knows, like for me, on a social level, it would be the fact that I play pickleball and I love pickleball and I'm an instructor, right? Almost anybody who meets me on a social level will find that out if we have at least 45 minutes to chat. That's an intentional thing, right? Because I care a lot about my personal brand and reputation. If you're just letting people kind of like meet you and pick up what they want to pick up of who you are and what you do, you're getting 100 different pitches from 100 different people when you're not in the room. So when those opportunities that you really want come up, it's a toss up if that person's going to think about you. Whereas if you're very intentional about making sure that 80% of those 100 people are going to know that you like pickleball, then 80 of those people, once they hear pickleball, are going to be like, oh, gotta think of Jehron. Like I heard about this opportunity or this tournament that you should play in. So that pours into social capital, where build your relationships, but also be intentional about your brand and what you are communicating to people so they know who you are and what's important to you at any given time, such that when they're out in the world, those filters of different things that are meaningful to you will kind of trigger the thought of you in their mind.
When you think of your 15-year-old self who wanted to be an NBA star, uh, what do you think he would think of this career path you've taken?
You know what's funny? In ninth grade, there was this writing seminar I took, and I remember that there was an essay that we wrote or something like that. And it was like, what would you be in 20 years or something like that? And I wrote, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I said CEO, but I think I wrote something to the effect of, I'd be like a CEO of some tech company. And I remember that the teacher was so shocked because like I was the most misbehaved in the class, and like I clearly cared about things like basketball and like all these other things. I was just like a social butterfly, not really trying to be a nerd. So she was like, "Wait, like a tech company? You want to be a CEO of a tech?" But it like didn't match up to anything else I was doing outside in and outside of that class. So there's like that funny, or not funny, but ironic concept of like children are right in many cases about themselves.
Yeah.
And like it's really about like listening to them, because like that core thing is there somewhere. And so you have to feed into it.
Now that he really is a CEO, Jehron gets to see his problem-solving chops manifesting a powerful human formation happening on college campuses around the country.
What brings me joy is definitely still every moment that a student shares that they effectively are doing something that they didn't believe they could do before. Like whether that's getting a job, whether that's like building some side project, whether that's applying to something that they didn't think they were eligible for. Like all of those moments to me can be summarized as the moment at which they realized that they could insert whatever the thing may be. And that moment will never get old for me. It will
Yeah.
never. There's an infinite amount of people that will have that moment forever, and
Mhm.
that will always excite me and bring me joy.
What strikes me about Jehron's story is how his investment in others created this expanding circle of impact. He wasn't trying to build a nonprofit. He was just helping friends who were struggling in computer science classes. Those brief moments in his dorm room gradually transformed into something much bigger.
That's so true. I'm thinking about his approach to social capital, focusing on horizontal relationships rather than trying to connect with those executives far removed from his own experience.
And that challenges our typical understanding of networking, doesn't it? What we've seen in Jehron's work reminds us that there is no such thing as pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Turns out we need to lean on one another, even on those who may not know us well, to lift one another up.
Absolutely. I love how you put that.
I love how he created this flywheel effect where students who once needed help became resources for others. One person's growth becomes fuel for another's journey.
Exactly. His approach embodies Frederick Buechner's wisdom to listen to your life and recognize that all moments are key moments. When we measure success by the transformation we see in others, we tap into something profound.
It's about measuring our lives by the amount of lift we create in people's lives, isn't it?
Yes, finding purpose not just in personal achievement, but in creating space where others can thrive. And in the end, that approach created more opportunity and purpose for him too.
She's Dana Allen Walsh.
And she's Michelle Weiss.
This has been another episode of A Life Worth Working.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends and loved ones who may also be searching for purpose and meaning in their work lives, or what we call the soul of work.